Welcome back to the Sage Audio channel. Today we're talking about how to use dynamic equalization during mastering. We'll look at multiple techniques that you can use when introducing dynamic equalization, discuss how you can accomplish these techniques, and then listen to each on a stereo mix. So if you could, like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for the full video. But first, if you're an artist, engineer, or producer, and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we do the rest. So first, let's look at using subtractive dynamic equalization during mastering. When mastering, you can use subtractive equalization to control sibilance, alleviate muddiness in the lower frequencies, augment the vocals, and tame hi-hats if they become too prominent. Now, it's best to use subtractive dynamic equalization at the beginning of your signal chain if you're using it during mastering. Now let's look at the 4 things that we mentioned in more detail, starting with sibilance. To tame sibilance, use an analyzer to see where your signal spikes in the high frequency range. Doing so lets you match up when an S is sung or spoken with the exact frequencies that S occupies. Now once you know the frequencies, create a band with the center frequency on the most prominent aspect of the sibilance. Then make it dynamic. You can either use the automatic settings, or you can adjust the threshold of the attenuation, as well as increase or decrease the range of the attenuation. By creating this band, you ensure that whenever sibilance occurs, it's attenuated by the band. Additionally, this ensures that cymbals and other high instrumentation are relatively unaffected. Next, let's talk about controlling muddiness with dynamic equalization. To alleviate your master from muddiness, create a band around 200 Hz. Just like before, make this band dynamic and then determine if the threshold needs to be attenuated. When trying to tame muddiness, I'd use the isolate feature to listen in on this bell filter's bandwidth. From there, I'd find the spot where the bass frequencies are the most prominent and let the attenuation occur there. Be sure not to lower this filter too far down the frequency spectrum, or you'll begin to attenuate aspects of the master that aren't directly related to the muddiness. Next, let's talk about using subtractive dynamic equalization to augment vocals. If you want to augment your vocals in a master, create a bell filter on the side image at 2 kHz and make it dynamic. Adjust the range to 2 dB and see if this makes an audible difference. Essentially, by using a band on the side image, you reduce the effect of masking, in turn increasing the amplitude of the mono vocal. Since this is dynamic, it will only trigger, or at least only trigger significantly, when the vocal is being sung. Lastly, let's talk about how to tame hi-hats using dynamic equalization. To tame hi-hats, use a dynamic shelf filter that starts around 8 kHz. If possible, and if the EQ allows for it, reduce the attack and release time to around 2 milliseconds. The FabFilter Pro Q3 that I'm using here doesn't have this option, but maybe there'll be a version in the future that does. Now this will ensure that the high frequency range retains its detail while the hi-hat is attenuated. Although how much you attenuate is up to you, I would set the range no greater than 2 dB. The reason being, changes to the high frequency range are easy to notice, so any changes made should be as subtle as possible. Let's take a listen to all 4 of these effects and see if we can hear a difference.
Feels right when it's wrong. I've stayed here too long, but something brings me back to you. Still hanging on, but something brings me back to you, back to you, back to you, back to you, back to you.
Next up, let's talk about using additive dynamic equalization during mastering. If you decide to use additive dynamic equalization during mastering, it's best to do so after compression and saturation. This way, you aren't amplifying the signal prior to compression, which would cause more aggressive compression. Additionally, it's best to make small changes when using additive dynamic equalization during mastering. Additive dynamic equalization is used to augment any aspects of the frequency spectrum which need to be amplified. You can use additive dynamic equalization to amplify the kick in a master, augment the vocal, dynamically widen the stereo image, and add some power to the mid-range. Regardless of the technique that you use, each one will increase the dynamic range of your master. Let's start by looking at using these techniques to augment the kick. By observing the frequency spectrum, find the most prominent kick frequency and place a bell filter with its center frequency directly over it. Then make the band dynamic as we've been doing and increase the range above the filter by about 3 dB. Lower the threshold if needed or use the automatic threshold feature. Next, let's talk about augmenting the vocal. Similar to the technique that we just used with the kick, do the same to the vocal, but with the bell filter's center frequency around 2 kHz on the mid or stereo channel. This will trigger expansion to those frequencies whenever the vocal is sung, in turn making them louder and cut through a mix. Next, let's talk about dynamically widening the stereo image. If you want to dynamically widen the stereo image of your master, create a shelf filter on the side image and place it around 7 kHz and up. Using a range of about 2 dB, lower the threshold or use an automatic setting until you notice that the band is triggered and expansion occurs. Since this band is on the side image, whenever it's triggered, it'll amplify the side image, in turn, making the entire stereo image wider. This has an interesting effect since the widening of the stereo image isn't constant, but instead depends on the presence of high-frequency instrumentation to occur. Lastly, let's talk about making the mid-range more powerful. One of the best ways to add some power or impact to a master is by using a dynamic band on the mid-frequencies. Since this area holds the majority of the instrumentation, boosting it and making it more dynamic helps with the impact of your master. The strategy works for both the mid and side image. If you use it on the mid image, you'll most likely make aspects of the drums and the vocal more impressive and dynamic. If you use this technique on the side image, you'll make the body of your guitars and maybe some of your temporal processing like reverb more dynamic. Experiment with expanding the mid-range of both the mid and side images to see how to create a balance between the two. Let's take a listen to all 4 of these techniques on a stereo mix.
Feels right when it's wrong. I've stayed here too long, but where we belong, I'm still hanging on.
So, these are our thoughts on using dynamic equalization during mastering, but what do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you're an artist or an engineer, send us one of your mixes at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we'll do the rest. But thank you so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and share this video with your friends. This way we know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Also, you can subscribe to the channel. We release new videos every week, and subscribing is the best way to stay up to date. There's a comment section where you can leave your thoughts on this video, or you can make a suggestion for a future video. And again, if you're an artist or an engineer and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.